She walked into the office full of hope. Her dream job finally within reach. But what Amara didn't know was that the same people who smiled at her on day one would be the ones to break her spirit piece by piece. This story is inspired by true cases. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear is not just a story. For some, it's a reality. Amara Johnson was 29 years old when she stepped through the glass doors of Wright v. Calder Marketing in London. It was a cold February morning, and she had just landed a position as an account executive, a role she had fought for years to get. She had the qualifications. She had the experience. She had the determination. But what she didn't have was a warning. From the moment she walked in, the signs were there. The receptionist, a slim blonde woman, greeted her politely, but with a pause. The kind of pause you feel more than you hear. And as Amara sat waiting, she noticed the difference in tone when a well-dressed white man arrived moments later. The receptionist's smile seemed warmer, her words easier. When Mr. Calder, the company director, came to greet her, he was welcoming, confident, the perfect picture of corporate leadership. He led her into the sleek open-plan office, where dozens of heads turned as they passed. Some smiled faintly. Others just stared. Her desk was between Claire, a young woman who barely glanced up, and Tom, a man whose handshake was as brief as his small talk. All morning, Amara followed the onboarding process, learning the systems and meeting the team. But at lunch, she found herself alone. Claire and a couple of others left for sushi, lowering their voices when she approached. She told herself it was nothing. First days could be awkward. That night, she called her mother, telling her everything was fine. She didn't mention the heaviness she felt as she walked out of that office, or the look in some of her colleagues' eyes. Because on that first day, Amara still believed that hard work and professionalism were enough. She didn't yet know they weren't. In the weeks that followed, Amara learned the rhythm of the office, and the people in it. She noticed things. Little things. When she joined group conversations, they seemed to wrap up quickly, as if she'd walked in at the wrong time. When she contributed ideas in meetings, they were often ignored. Until a white colleague repeated them minutes later, and suddenly, they were brilliant. Her name, Amara, was simple. But some colleagues insisted on mispronouncing it. Amara. Even after she gently corrected them, the mistakes kept coming. One manager joked, "Well, you've got one of those tricky African names, don't you?" Laughter followed, but not from her. At lunch, the isolation became routine. She tried sitting with different groups, but conversations would turn into inside jokes she didn't understand, or awkward silences that made her feel she was intruding. Emails were another thing. When Claire needed something, her messages to Amara were clipped and cold. But Amara had seen the same Claire send cheerful, emoji-filled emails to other colleagues. Still, Amara kept her head down. She arrived early, stayed late, and did her job well. She told herself it was just office politics. That she was overthinking. Until one Friday afternoon. During a team meeting, Amara presented a marketing concept she had been working on all week. It was polished, innovative, and backed by solid research. She spoke confidently, walking the team through each step. When she finished, there was silence. Then Tom cleared his throat. "Interesting. But I'm not sure it's the right fit for our clients. Maybe something a bit more mainstream?" Mr. Calder nodded slowly. "Yeah, let's park that idea for now." They moved on. 2 weeks later, Amara sat in another meeting, and nearly froze. Tom was presenting her concept. The same slides, the same strategy, only with a few words changed. This time, the room lit up with praise. "Fantastic, Tom. You've really captured the market here." Amara felt her chest tighten. She looked at Mr. Calder, wondering if he remembered. If he knew. But he was smiling at Tom like it was the first time he'd ever heard the idea. Amara didn't say a word. She couldn't. Because in that moment, she realized something. In this office, the rules were different for her. And speaking up might cost her more than staying silent. It started with a joke. Amara was in the break room, pouring herself a cup of tea, when two colleagues, Martin from sales and Claire from her team, walked in mid-conversation. Martin glanced at her, then smirked. "Careful, Claire," he said, "don't leave your purse on the counter." You know what they say. Claire's eyes darted to Amara, and she gave an awkward laugh. Martin, stop. But Martin didn't stop. He chuckled and added, just kidding, Amara. Don't look so serious. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed the kettle back down. She wanted to say something. To demand what, exactly, he meant. But she could feel the weight of the moment, the unspoken threat that if she reacted, she would be the one making it a big deal. That was the rule here. They could cross the line. But she had to stay polite. Later that day, she went to HR. The head of HR, a woman named Susan, listened quietly as Amara explained what happened. When she finished, Susan leaned back in her chair. I understand you feel uncomfortable, Amara. But you know, in British humor, we often tease each other. I'm sure Martin didn't mean anything by it. Amara stared at her. But it wasn't a joke to me. It was. Susan raised a hand gently. I'll have a word with him. But my advice? Try not to take it to heart. You don't want to get a reputation for being overly sensitive. That phrase stuck with her. Overly sensitive. It followed her into meetings, where she noticed people exchanging looks when she spoke. It followed her into project reviews, where small mistakes she made were magnified, while others' errors were brushed aside. Then came the performance review. Despite exceeding her targets, she was told she lacked team fit and needed to work on her communication style. When she asked for examples, the feedback was vague. Just be a bit less intense. More approachable. Amara walked out of that meeting feeling like the ground under her was shifting. She was working twice as hard to prove herself, and somehow, the narrative was still being written against her. It was no longer about what she did. It was about who she was. 3 months into the job, an opportunity opened up. The position, Senior Account Executive. The kind of role that would not only boost Amara's salary but also give her more influence over client strategies. From the moment it was posted internally, she knew she had the credentials. She'd brought in 2 high-value clients since joining, delivered every project on time, and even managed a campaign that had exceeded its target reach by 40%. She applied. Her direct manager, Mr. Calder, smiled when she mentioned it. You've been doing well, he said. Let's see how the process plays out. For the next 2 weeks, she worked harder than ever. Staying late, double-checking her reports, ensuring every client interaction was flawless. The day of the announcement, the team gathered in the main office space. Mr. Calder cleared his throat. I'm pleased to share, he began, that the new senior account executive will be Claire. The room clapped. Some cheered. Claire looked modestly down at her shoes, as if she hadn't expected it. Amara's stomach sank. Claire had been at the company for just over a year. She had missed deadlines, lost a small client, and had no major wins in the last quarter. Later, Amara asked Calder for feedback. Claire just has a better rapport with the team, he said. And she's a bit more adaptable in her approach. Amara knew what that meant. Claire fit the mold. Claire made them comfortable. But things didn't stop there. In the weeks following the promotion, Amara began to notice something new, a subtle shift in how people interacted with her. Conversations went quiet when she walked into the break room. Colleagues avoided making eye contact. Then she overheard it. 2 coworkers whispering by the printer. Heard she went to HR about Martin. Yeah, and apparently she's always complaining. Not a team player. Her chest tightened. The story about Martin's joke, the one she'd tried to handle discreetly, had been twisted into something else. She was no longer Amara, the skilled account executive. She was Amara, the problem. It didn't matter that she'd never raised her voice. That she'd never been unprofessional. The label had stuck. And once a label sticks. In an office like this, it spreads like ink in water. It happened on a Tuesday morning. The team was gathered in the conference room for the weekly client updates. Amara had been up late the night before finalizing a campaign presentation for one of their largest accounts. She'd triple-checked every slide, making sure it was perfect. When it was her turn, she stood at the front, steadying her voice as she walked everyone through the strategy, the creative concepts, the timelines, the projected ROI. But halfway through, Mr. Calder interrupted. Amara, hold on. I'm not sure this is what we discussed. She blinked. This is the outline from last week's meeting, with the adjustments you requested. He frowned, glancing at the others. It doesn't feel on brand. Well, need to start over. The room was silent, but she could feel the eyes on her. Tom smirked. Claire shifted in her seat. I can make revisions, she began. No, Calder said, his tone final. Let's have Tom take it from here. I think he understands the direction better. It was like a punch to the chest. Tom moved to the front, picking up where Shed left off, but as he spoke, she noticed something. He was using her slides. The same ones Calder had just dismissed. He only changed a few words. And this time, Calder nodded approvingly. Yes, exactly. That's more like it. A flush crept up Amara's neck. Her hands were trembling, but she clenched them in her lap. She didn't trust herself to speak. After the meeting, she slipped into the women's restroom and locked herself in a stall. She sat there on the closed lid, her heart pounding in her ears. She thought about every little thing Shed brushed off since she started here. The ignored ideas. The stolen credit. The jokes. The promotion Shed lost. And she realized, it wasn't going to stop. That night, she lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind replayed the humiliation in the conference room over and over. She felt the heat of shame, the heaviness in her chest, the quiet voice whispering, "You don't belong here. You never did." By the end of that week, she stopped joining the team for lunch entirely. She avoided speaking in meetings unless she absolutely had to. The bright, confident woman who had walked into Right v. Calder just a few months ago was fading. After that Tuesday morning, Amara stopped being herself. She came in quietly, kept her head down, and spoke only when necessary. The once neat bun she wore to work started to loosen by midday. Dark circles formed under her eyes. Her work remained strong, but no one seemed to notice or care. In the break room, conversations would halt when she entered. Laughter would pick up again as soon as she left. Emails from Claire became sharper, Tom's comments more patronizing. And every so often, she'd catch someone looking at her the way people look at something they don't want nearby, like she was an inconvenience. Her mother noticed the change in her voice during their evening calls. "You sound tired, Amara," she said one night. "I'm fine, Mum. Just busy," she lied. But the truth was, she was exhausted. Exhausted from holding her tongue. Exhausted from trying to prove herself in a place where the verdict had already been decided. Then came the final blow. One morning, she arrived to find an email from HR requesting a meeting. When she sat down with Susan, the same woman who had once told her not to be overly sensitive, she was handed a written warning. "Concerns have been raised," Susan said, "about your attitude and your ability to work as part of a team." Amara felt her breath catch. "What concerns?" "Some colleagues have described you as difficult. Unapproachable." She wanted to argue, to demand proof, but she knew how it would look. Angry. Defensive. Exactly the picture they were trying to paint. When she left the office that day, the winter air felt heavier than usual. She walked past cafes and shop windows, their warm light spilling onto the pavement, but none of it touched her. That night, she didn't call her mum. She didn't make dinner. She just sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the floor. The walls of her flat felt closer than usual. The silence louder. And for the first time, she wondered what it would be like if she just didn't go back. It was a Monday morning when Amara didn't show up for work. No email. No phone call. No message. By midday, her absence had become a topic in hushed conversations around the office. Claire told someone at the coffee machine that she'd noticed Amara wasn't coping well. Tom muttered that these things happen when people can't handle the pressure. By Tuesday, word spread that she still hadn't been seen. A colleague claimed they'd walked past her flat and noticed the curtains closed, the mail piling up at the door. On Wednesday, the news came quietly. She'd been found. No details were given. The company sent an email to all staff. "We are deeply saddened to hear of the passing of our colleague, Amara Johnson. Our thoughts are with her family at this difficult time." No mention of her work. No acknowledgement of what she endured here. Just a short, corporate statement, and then, business as usual. A few people put flowers on her empty desk. They stayed there for a week before being thrown away. Outside of work, her friends and family grieved loudly and openly. But inside Right V.E. Calder, Amara's name slowly stopped being spoken. It was as if she'd never been there. The truth of what happened to her, whether she'd chosen to leave this world, or whether her body had simply given out under the weight of constant stress, would never be known. What was certain was this. A vibrant, talented black woman had walked into that office full of hope. And left it in silence, forever. And the people who had watched her fade away? They would never see themselves as part of the reason why. For more real-life stories like this, subscribe and hit the notification button. We are deeply saddened to hear of the passing of our colleague, Amara Johnson. Our thoughts are with her family at this difficult time. No mention of her work. No acknowledgement of what she endured here. Just a short, corporate statement, and then, business as usual. A few people put flowers on her empty desk. They stayed there for a week before being thrown away. Outside of work, her friends and family grieved loudly and openly. But inside Right V.E. Calder, Amara's name slowly stopped being spoken. It was as if she'd never been there. The truth of what happened to her, whether she'd chosen to leave this world, or whether her body had simply given out under the weight of constant stress, would never be known. What was certain was this. A vibrant, talented black woman had walked into that office full of hope. And left it in silence, forever. And the people who had watched her fade away? They would never see themselves as part of the reason why. For more real-life stories like this, subscribe and hit the notification button.